BocaJS, and we'd like to thank you for coming to the group and to today's presentation. We have a couple of sponsors to thank first. Let's just start with that.
Alrighty. Hey guys, we might have met a few of you guys before, but we are with Gravity IT. So we do recruit on jobs anywhere from South Miami to Juno Beach, and we also have an office in Charlotte, so we have availability up there as well. And basically what differentiates us from the others is we found that the best way to find really great talent is asking other people like you guys who are really great IT professionals who they know. So we came up with a referral program where if the individual that you refer to us gets placed in a role, you will actually get paid for it. So that happens in one of two ways. With permanent placements, you get a 10% fee of what they make in a salary outright. And then for contract roles, you make 1% of what they're billed monthly for the life of the contract. So, just a little incentive to help each other out in the IT community.
All right, great. Thanks. Great, and I just wanted to say, feel free to come up to us whenever, if you want to have a conversation. We actually just met with a couple of hiring managers earlier this week, specific to develop roles, front end, React, everything. So if you have any questions, feel free to come up to us. I feel a little weird wielding two microphones, but thank you very much for being here tonight. It means a lot, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. And we have two more sponsors. We have Sendine Spaces. Now, Amanda normally is here, but she had to go to get supplies for the things that you see over there. So the pizza and the drinks are thanks to Gravity. The location you're looking at is Gravity IT. If you're looking for a place that is a co-working space, somewhere to work other than Starbucks or your home, Sendine. What did I say? Gravity. The place you're looking up is not Gravity. This is Sendine. You're right. JetBrains is also a sponsor. Now, why is there not a JetBrains person here? Because they're giving us a free license. So stick around till the very end and remind me if I forget. I have forgotten in the past. Sorry, this is yours. That there will be some prizes to give away at the end. Okay, so if you don't forget it, the first person who tells me about it gets it. So if I don't forget about it, so make sure I don't forget about it.
So I see a lot of new faces in here. Raise your hand if this is your first time here. Hi. Welcome. Does everybody know about Palm Beach Tech? Is everybody signed up for Palm Beach Tech in the Slack channel? Okay, well then my job's done. That's it. Join Palm Beach Tech. We run multiple events going on throughout the month. I run the Palm Beach JavaScript group up in Palm Beach Gardens. So if you're from the north, we meet on the last Tuesday of every month. And BocaJS meets on the first Tuesday of every month. We're going to kick things back up in January with Palm Beach JS. January is going to be sans BocaJS because who wants to come here on the 2nd? Anybody going to be hungover? I will be. So keep us a lookout on the meetup.com. I'm sure. How many of you found us on meetup.com? Everybody? Okay, so then that's the only place you should look at then. All right, cool. Thank you.
Hello? Oh, this one doesn't work. I'm Scott Ketterinsik. I'm one of the organizers of Code Camp, which is coming up in March 3rd, 2019. Could you bring up a browser and put up the...
Someone's...
right there. Wait, no. I want you to see just type SF. Yeah, right there. sfcodecamp.com. We're currently looking for sponsors and speakers. If you'd like to speak at Code Camp, check it out, sign up. Last year we had 1,400 programmers and developers sign up and over 1,000 people show up. We have all kinds of topics like SQL, .NET Core, JavaScript development, AI, machine learning, business intelligence, you name it, we got it. So we had about, last year, 96 sessions and about 78 speakers. It's a one-day free event, costs you $0. You get free breakfast, free lunch, free t-shirts, and then we usually have prizes. And it's a great opportunity for networking. You'll see a lot of recruiters, a lot of people hiring, a lot of peers. And I hope you can make it. If anybody wants a card, I've got just a couple. Thank you.
Thank you, yes. So, so if you guys are interested in that bot, I've been showing bocajs.com/IoT. That's a $50 bot or $100 bot for $50. If you guys want to do me a favor, follow me on videos.bocajs.org. There will be this presentation as well as all. So when I asked some presenters, some friends of ours, which was the best person for presenting for UI, for UX, Sylke's name came up 3 or 4 or 5 times at least. I'm honored that she has joined us for this presentation, and the mic is all yours, Sylke. Thank you, guys. Hello.
Hello? Oh, awesome. So my name is Sylke Lopez, and I'm here to kind of bring about what practical usability testing is and how you can apply it to your projects. So just to get a feel of the crowd, how many are engineers, software engineers, okay? How many are UX designers? How many are product managers? Okay, well, that's good. So my purpose here is to kind of bring the conscientious part of why we need to do usability testing right in the beginning. Let's not waste a lot of time. Let's not go past, the mock-ups. No, it needs to come before that. All right, so what is usability? So textbook definition of that is basically ease of use. How easy is it for the user to use my product? Are they taking longer than 10 seconds before they're clicking on this call to action? What is the wayfinding of the navigation? Is your information structured in a way that makes sense? Even content. Content is a big one. I just came back from an event apart in Orlando, and one of my favorite talks was about content strategy and how to make sure that you're labeling your call to actions properly, it makes sense, and you keep things consistent. All right. Now, what is usability testing? Well, it's not focus groups here. So, because we want usability testing to be a one-on-one, intimate session with the representative user that will be at the other end of the product. So I work for DICOM. DICOM is over there in Palm Beach Gardens, right off RCA Boulevard. And I'm in the telecommunications industry. So just to give kind of like a little bit of how our UX team works over there, we have a lot of subsidiary companies across the nation that have their own IT and their own products. And we also have tools and software that they use for their everyday. We're talking about people in the office, but also people in the field. I'm talking digging holes to put fiber optic cables throughout cities all over the US. So my background was doing UX for the government, doing UX for higher education. Every single company, it was just different. And also, the usability testing was non-existent at those. And I saw the good and the bad. I saw a lot of projects that the product was just not getting out on time. A lot of money was spent in training and in things that were just not necessary because usability testing could have solved a lot of these problems right in the beginning. So with focus groups, that's more for like in the marketing department where you have a group of people and you're discussing if this product is going to be desirable for this group. And why are we doing usability testing one-on-one? Because we don't want groupthink. We want people to just freely, unbiased, without anyone else doing a face or anything to them, just tell us, why are you not completing this form? Why are you not submitting the ticket through our internal Atlas ticketing system for IT support? Things like that. It's also not user testing. And I know these two terms get confused, and I understand why. User testing starts sort of like in the very, very, very beginning where where you're trying to get a target audience to use your product. And in this case, the employees at DICOM and all the subsidiaries need to use our tools. They don't have any other way to go about it. So just to make it less stressful, less frustrating, that's the usability testing part of it. Now, where does it fit in the UX process? So you've gathered your business requirements. You've talked to the head honchos. You understand that, people are just not using it on time and it's costing other people money. You've done the user research. You know exactly what the users are not doing, where the pain points are now, and you've proposed a solution. You've done the design, you've done the mock-ups. Now, putting those mock-ups, those prototypes in front of the users, that's where we have this iterative process going on. So it's not always going to take one usability testing session. It's going to take multiple. But the great thing about this is that it shouldn't take more than 45 minutes. If you've gone an hour, then you have to kick the guy out. But we want to validate that or disprove that the design works or not. So as user experience designers, we're not here to pat each other on the back. We're not here to say that we know exactly what the user wants, because we don't. And there are so many different industries too. Like I said, I came from higher education, totally different audience. Now, here in telecommunications, we have people that are working for Verizon, working for AT&T, working for contractors of another company. So we want to hear those opinions. We want to hear exactly where in their day this is messing up and causing them to, for example, not check out, check in or check out from their time. So currently, I'm working on a system with my UX team at DICOM to help the people out in the field who are hourly workers to check in their time, check out their time, take breaks. And this is for all of the US. So we have people in California that have different laws on how many breaks they can take in a day. How long is their break supposed to be? So to simplify all that, we've created a product, an app, to give the person who's digging in a ditch an easy way of just pulling out his phone, saying, okay, I'm taking a break right now. It starts counting down 30 seconds or 30 minutes, and then, they'll get it alerted and they'll be back on the job site. Before, they were not taking breaks because they just didn't know how to use it. So that's another thing, empathy, which we'll talk about later. Why should we care? So people are more impacted by bad experience than a good one. I saw that in a book somewhere. So on the same vein of what I was saying about empathy, we should be caring, not only because it's going to save the company money, because you want to be proud of this product. You want to be helpful. We're in the business of serving people. So empathy should be the number one on your list. But the 3 top reasons at DICOM, and hopefully in other companies, is to retain users. So let's go back to this ticketing system that I was talking about earlier at DICOM as an example. So our intranet whole help desk system is terrible, to say the least. People from HR down to like QA testers are not submitting tickets at all. They're just getting the phone and calling IT support. And so they're not using the system, and that's the problem. They're instead putting in more calls to IT support to get their software approved, or to request hardware, or to request laptops, and so on and so forth. So we want them back on the system. So we've been redesigning our internal ticketing system. Cost effectiveness. I've mentioned this. It takes way more effort, time, human hours. I think our team was up this past weekend getting this permitting ticketing system out till 5 in the morning. So it's a lot. It's a lot on the person, but it's also a lot when it comes to your budget. And usability testing won't take a big chunk of budget. It just won't. It max 25%, but this is why we're going to kind of strip away all those formal usability testing sessions that people talk about. Again, you want a high quality product. Don't serve it if you're not proud of it. All right. So another thing that I've learned from visiting these subsidiaries, visiting where the people are having problems. I went to Atlanta a couple times to talk to our subsidiaries and figuring out why HR is not using the proper channels to onboard our employees. Why are they not using the proper channels to order 20 laptops for the 20 new engineers that we just hired? They instead go to Best Buy and then they expense it some other way, which is not the best way to track hardware. Especially, it was more frustrating for IT support. But yes, we want our clients to stick with the software that we have. Right? Let's get it right the first time. And so we don't have to go full fidelity, guys. We don't have to spend 20 hours on a mock-up so it could look like the best thing ever. No, you could start just from scratch, from paper prototypes, low fidelity prototypes. There's already a lot of libraries and frameworks out there for Figma, for InVision, for Photoshop. There are libraries already. There are component systems that can be just reused just to get the idea across. And at the end of the day, all it takes is 5 users. At DICOM, we do 3, just to get things going even faster. But we do several sessions throughout the week. But with 5 users, you can get 85% of the critical issues revealed. So navigational, for wayfinding and everything, you'll just figure it out right away. And then once you get to the second round of usability testing, then you'll find the smaller things that are affecting a smaller % of users. All right. And not only will you get qualitative test results, but you also get quantitative research by the fail success rates of did they find this product or service within the system, or how many times did it take for them to try again. During the usability testing sessions, we don't want to guide them exactly where it is, because then that defeats the whole purpose of it. But if they are stuck, that's where we're asking them, why are you stuck? So on the 3rd time, then we'll tell them, okay, so if you would have gone this way, you would have found it. And then they'll tell us back, well, it shouldn't be over there, it should be this way. So, and as I mentioned before, we are not the users. We may have a good idea, maybe of past compiled findings and reports, but we have to keep talking to the user no matter what. Because also circumstances change, environments change. At least with the subsidiaries that we're servicing, we have a large population here in Florida that only speak Spanish and only speak Creole. So I'll probably talk about this a little bit more later, but in other parts of the U.S., there are groups that are only speaking Russian, and the literacy is pretty low. So we need to find that connection and listen to them and find a translator. Really, we had to bring 2 native Creole speakers with us when we went to our field test, and that helped out a lot. Now, how to conduct a usability test. All right, so we already said that we need 5 users, right? We need 5 representative users, or 3. I have nothing against with the 3. I love the 3. So let's think. What kind of representative users would we have? And you guys can chat it out. I'll start with the power user. But what's another user that we could kind of pull in and say, hey, do you have like a quick 30 minutes to go over something? Anyone? Anyone? Huh? Yes. One that can't use a computer. Novice. Never seen the system before. Love it. What's a third one? And a casual user. Yeah. Okay, this is the guy who will probably call IT support when he's like, I really don't care enough to spend so much money, so much time. Oh, over there? Blind person. Yep. We need accessibility to be top-notch, so to get representative users with a disability is important. Now, set up a scenario. Ask them to perform a task with the design. So if the task is order 5 laptops of a certain range, bundle it up and get it going, that's one scenario. But another scenario could be you have 2 new employees. One is going to financial department. The other one's going to, what's that other one, payroll. There's going to be a huge difference between how one is onboarded from the other. So this is just an example, but you can get a lot of scenarios, unbiased scenarios, just from what they're going to do throughout the week. So it's going to take a little bit of talking to different people in different departments to get your scenarios, but this is part of the job. You really have to communicate effectively. And once you have, let's say, 3 good scenarios, then you have your mock-up, you have your prototype, you get them for 30 minutes and let them run with it, really. Practice active listening because it's all about them. And later on I'll teach on how to frame the questions so that they're unbiased and they're not leading. Back to building empathy. So I've never done usability testing in the field. And when I say in the field, I meant I had to go to a construction site. It was hot, it wasn't cute, my hair was very frizzy. But anyways, my coworker Ryan's over here has a notebook, and I have a notebook as well. So we had a good team kind of situation going. Whenever I would get tired with the talking, then he would take over, and then we will just take notes back and forth. I used my phone to record certain conversations to make so that we can use it later when we compile the report. In this case, we took the time tracker app that we wanted validation on. Like I said, most of the population was Haitian. We had no idea how to communicate, so we had to bring someone with them. I think in a group of 10 labor workers, there was one that had a little bit of English proficiency, and that was actually great because that means that as we're showing this person each screen, they're telling us, that doesn't make sense. That graphic that we thought, that icon that we thought would make sense in the scenario, they're like, okay, is that to close it? Or, that confusion really helps, actually. Because again, we don't know it all. And not only did we have to go to construction sites, we also had to hunt down other people that were all over the Palm Beaches. And I'm talking from Boca to Delray to Jupiter, so that was a fun time. I definitely built empathy there, especially when one guy just kept screaming at me. He's like, you people in the office don't know what it's like out here. I'm like, yeah, I don't. I know now. And I feel you, man. Now, the usability test and the purpose of it. So you want to plan for the most important user actions. You're never going to get everything in one session. So make sure that you're looking for the critical ones. This is a little template I came up with because I found it very helpful. So here, what do you want to do? You want to validate that users know how to blank. Validate that blank is useful for blank. Validate that blank is discoverable. So here's an example. If we're talking a travel app or some kind of vacation system, we want to validate that travelers know how to book a flight on a mobile device. Validate that the date picker is useful for booking a round-trip flight. I've been to so many airline websites where the date picker, I felt like it should have gone a certain way, and it didn't at all, so it gave me a one-way instead of a round-trip. So, and validate that reward program is discoverable. So that's something that happened not that long ago for me. JetBlue, Delta, all these, I signed up for reward programs, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to use my miles to just use that instead of real money to check out and book a flight. Now, good task scenarios. Give some context, kind of frame the environment for them. A good task scenario gives you a bit of context so that users can behave as if they actually need to perform the task. So an example that I came up with was you've accrued 14 days of PTO, you've racked up this many miles in your airline's reward program, you log on to your existing airline account, start browsing some vacation options, and let the person just go at it as natural as it feels. While they're doing that, you just make sure to take down every note, have them narrate what they're doing. So they will say, well, I'm looking at this, I'm opening up this map, I'm looking at all the cities, what's the cheapest flight out there so I can use my miles. So try to tell them, yes, keep telling me more, think out loud. Now, provide details, but not so many details where you're not giving them any room to explain themselves. So some specifics are good, like prices on something. You want to make sure that they're looking for a laptop that's within the price range of 600 to 1,000 with some specs. But you also don't want to tell them, oh, but only through I don't know, this specific brand, Samsung, because they're, if the branding is not an important part of the tax scenario, don't even mention it. So in this example, going along with the travel scenario, your family consists of 4 travelers, 2 under the age of 18, some checked bags, you want to book something for 6 months out, not bad. But a bad example would be if you tell them, all right, from Miami to Bali, April 21st. No, you're already kind of trying to get them to give you the answer that you want, and that's not the purpose of this. Now, I'll probably ask you guys in the audience. So the types of questions that you want to ask the user, avoid closed questions, of course. You don't want those leading ones. And try to go for the more open-ended, because a lot of times they'll give you details that you probably would have never thought of. And that will be helpful for your next usability testing. So the first closed question, do you prefer to take pictures of people or environments? Right away, you can see that you're kind of limiting them to 2 categories, people or environments. What about a dog? What if they would like to take pictures of dogs? And now, would you like a feature that automatically shares your event pictures to meetups? Well, now you're giving them a specific app or software. If in this scenario you want to find out what the user would ideally want to share their pictures to. So in this case, to any social media network, to find out if they find it valuable, they find it useful, do they find it scary, especially now in the era of, everybody's trying to hack my account. So do you guys have some kind of open-ended question do you think that would be a nice follow-up to this? Yes, Morgan?
For the first one, what are your favorite subjects to take pictures of?
Okay. That's perfect because we're not limiting them to a specific category. And that's good. That's a nice open-ended question.
Hello?
Like, what do you like to take pictures of? Perfect. Now we can continue moving on and say, what are your thoughts on a feature that allows you to automatically post photos at a specific event to a social network? And now the better question could be, can you tell me about a time when you really enjoyed taking pictures at an event? What made it enjoyable? So now you're really getting deep. You're telling them, all right, give me your favorite time, event, probably at a family gathering, at a barbecue, or someone hosted a meetup at BocaJS, and they don't know how to consolidate all those pictures into one because everybody's taking their own. But maybe there's like a geotag or something that could just upload it to the meetups page or something. Who knows? And another one would be, how do you currently share the photos you take right now? Is there something left to be desired? Do you wish there was a different feature? So these are great examples, and you can twist them all over, but try to keep them unbiased, open-ended, and let them talk. Now, tips on conducting a session. We've talked about biases. It's really hard to overcome sometimes, but just make sure, keep in mind that you use pronouns that are appropriate to the person, and make sure that you're not boxing them in just because of their role at the company. It's good not to rush the user by, sometimes, actually I've did this once and I felt really bad about it because they kind of went off on a tangent. But in that case, then you try to kind of like bring them back, circle it around so it can stick to the point. Allow moments of silence for the user to think. Sometimes it takes people a couple minutes to think back to when, something in the past, and take it to the field. Go exactly where they are. They could be at the office, they could be at a Target checkouts, cashier, or at a construction site, like I learned. And now after the test, it's good to debrief with the participants. You want to ask follow-up questions if you have time. Again, we want to try to keep this between 30 to 45 minutes. There's deadlines we got to meet. And compile the data. You probably will have a notebook full of scribbles, and you have to bring it back to a report. You can bring it to the manager. You can bring it to the stakeholders, and you can say, hey, this is what people are really thinking about this product. And they have no reason to lie. They're frustrated with their work. Something is getting in the way of their work. There's all these pain points when it comes to finishing up their work. So I'll show you an example of a compiled data report that we did. Nothing too crazy, but I couldn't show the whole thing because of obvious reasons. But some sections that you can include in your report are the purpose of the task, just one sentence. What do you want to accomplish out of it? Who was tested? So if we have the 3 to 5 representative users, name and what did you categorize them as? Novice user, power user, casual user, user that needs keyboard abilities. Common characteristics amongst those users. All right, do they all work in the payroll department? Do they all work in QA? Top 3 standout findings. What did you find that was very curious that you didn't even think about before? Each scenario, the 3 scenarios that you've already you wrote out and you thought long hard about it. Success rates. How many times did it take for them to find something in the knowledge base or in some other categories in the search? Findings and recommendations. So if you propose that the solution would be just a smarter search and no one ended up using the search bar, everybody wanted to browse through categories, that's one. And then the recommendation would be, okay, make browsing categories more discoverable. So here we have these sections. Scenario, number of participants, percent successful, findings over here, recommendations, notable quotes. In this case, I don't care about the tags unless they have ones that I would use and are available at the top of the page. In this case, we had keyword tags for the product in a catalog page. On the bottom, kind of for a, hey, check out these other similar products and services. They didn't even look down there. They're like, okay, well, the tag, if the tags were up there, up by the name of the product or the name of the service, then I would have clicked on it. And then another one was, I usually read from left to right, so the form caught my attention before I even spent time on it. So there's going to be a lot of those. Some people like left to right, some people like right to left. So these notable quotes are interesting, a lot of times comical. Definitely write those down. Now, when should we start? Like I said, vital to start in the beginning. Currently in the middle of 2 products that are already in UAT. It's kind of hard to make a case for that right now, but at least with these findings and these recommendations, the next product won't take that long to get it right the first time. So yeah, if you're in the UX side, if you're an engineer, you're a QA, you're a product manager, it's important to be conscientious about it. Keep it in mind whenever writing stories, especially, and to make sure that these stories are categorized under user experience so that they could start on it right away. But how do I convince my boss? Well, coming into DICOM, I learned a lot about how it even got to having a UX team. So in the beginning, no one took the first UX designer there, my coworker Johnny, seriously. But it took the redesigning of the intranet to get everyone on board. So he took his time. It's still in development, so I have my hands in it now. But the intranet was crap, like a lot of other companies' intranets are crap, from the ones I've been to. I'm not going to joke on that. But once it was redesigned, it was tested, it brought a lot, everyone's voice was heard within the company on what they wanted out of this hub, this company hub. That got a lot of buzz around the company. And then the stakeholders in this case, which are our bosses, the CEOs and the CIO, they realized that, okay, well, how did this get here all like usable and flashy and nice, and then all our other products that are actually being used by our subsidiaries and our customers are not? Well, let's hire more people. Let's bring more people on board, and we can turn this around. So yeah, hit them with the facts. If you've done usability testing before, then you can bring these back for the next project and start at the office. In this case, it took for us to redesign an intranet. It could be another thing. It could be some side project that you could show off and then do a host a lunch and learn and explain the process to them. So these are my insights, and this is what I've learned so far. And I'm sure I'm going to keep learning because that's how this career goes. But thank you for listening. But now I would definitely like to hear questions because everybody is in a different position in a different company. So.
And I have a microphone that all of a sudden starts working. So let's start with some. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So definitely, we have questions. Question? You got to come to the mic.
All right. So being that UX is a very opinionated field, right? What battles are you willing to fight for, and which battles are you willing to just like, all right, whatever is the best case, we'll do, right?
Well, I will always put the priority, what I'm willing to fight for is the person that doesn't have a voice. So the person that doesn't have a voice, in our case, is the subsidiaries, the people who are not at corporate, who are dealing with the product every day. And then some that I can take a back seat on would be the ones that is not being used by a large crowd right now. So.
Cool. I got 2 more. Sorry.
Don't worry.
biases are very hard to overcome and whatnot. So when conducting these types of surveys, how can one be conscious that they're being biased, like unintentionally? Are there tools out there that can maybe illuminate some questions that we're asking are biased for these reasons or anything of that sort? How can one educate themselves that the questions are biased?
When it comes to education and biases, I actually brought a couple books that I actually really love and I learned. So
I get a cut on the book sales.
Tragic Design. Here we go. This is an O'Reilly series, one of my favorites. The author is Jonathan Chariot and Cynthia Savard-Saucier, and it's the impact of bad design and how to fix it. In here, you get real-life case studies. This is from Ford. This is from medical devices that have not been able to help people, that unfortunately people have died for different scans and whatnot. It's important to read this literature, these past mistakes that were done by big companies that spend a lot of money when it comes to paying these families out for cars that didn't have the right safety features. And so building up empathy takes time, but I think that these books, there's another one in here that I'm sure a lot of you have seen. Don't Make Me Think. Yep, there's another one on how to make sure that accessibility is the first thing that you're thinking about as well. There are people out there that only use keyboard for their own reasons, that need a screen reader. This is why we have to meet the user in their environment so that we can see, exactly what they're dealing with.
Cool. Yeah. So I've got no one, I'll let other people go.
Thank you. My question is, I know there's oftentimes different steps you go through with the usability process when you're testing surveys and things like that. Is there ever a time where your, the stakeholders or your supervisor has like a time crunch and you might they're kind of encouraging you to skip some processes? Is it a good idea to convince them that it's why these certain steps are still important to include in the process if you have a time crunch, or are there certain ones that aren't as important that you can afford to skip?
Yeah, that is why I kind of watered down this whole usability testing into something a little bit more practical, more cheaper, faster, because of that was the battle I was always facing. It was always, but we need to get incentives for these people. We need to recruit these users. No, but you can recruit your coworkers here. You just figure out if they have time, if they can spare 30 minutes. I think it's worth fighting for, especially with the stakeholders, because they're going to be really happy with it later. Build a higher quality product. It's all about that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the talk. It was very informative. I'm just curious to see what has been your biggest aha moment when conducting a usability test.
Okay, so there were several usability tests that I found intriguing. I think definitely it would be with the HR department in another subsidiary that I went to go visit. Their whole onboarding experience was very, very different and disconnected from corporates, from DICOMs. And learning the reasons why they did things a certain way actually helped me figure out, okay, well, maybe we should be learning from you guys, because you guys seem to have it a lot more efficient than what we're doing. So that's another thing. I've learned so many things from the subsidiaries where back at corporate, they're saying, oh, they need to follow our process. No, well, actually, let's figure it out. Let us, the UX designers, go over there, hear them out, and figure out how long it took them to finish a process, and then compare it towards ours. So that's one thing. If we want if the goal is to have everybody on the same page and have this continuity, then that was my biggest aha moment, that, that I doesn't have it all. Mm-hmm.
Hi. I was just wondering, do you always do your testing, one-on-one in a very manual, with your notepad, or do you ever use any kind of tools that where you could send out a link and 100 employees could take it and it records the screen, records the clicks, things like that, and then asks questions either during or after the fact?
Lately, I haven't, but in the past, I have done moderated remote tests, and I find that I found it much more difficult for me, at least, just dealing with my personality, and I prefer being in the room with the person and seeing every little thing. But I do see that it's beneficial, and I know that there's the platforms out there, usertesting.com and all that. I think there's going to be an upcoming one at DICOM. There's going to be one where I have to do a go-to webinar kind of thing, and I'll have to use these tools all over again. So hopefully this time around I can get more comfortable with the tools. But I do prefer the pen to paper kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I was going to suggest the full story is one of the services like that
Full
seems
story.
to also like even show the you can't see anything about the user, but you can see them sort of pausing and perhaps waiting for something. Now, you don't know if they just went to the bathroom or they're really confused with that. So
Does this one grab the heat, the whole heat map as well?
It does not use the heat map.
Okay.
It just records exactly what the user's doing.
Okay.
And through different pages so that it sort of keeps alive as you go from page to page to page.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but that was a good question. So I
Oh,
had the same
full
question.
story. I heard great things about that one, so
Yeah. But
definitely I think we should check it
you're
out.
right. A camera would be nice,
Yeah.
or a questionnaire, like you said afterwards.
Yeah.
If there isn't anything like that.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
invented.
Yeah, post usability testing surveys are definitely one of my favorite things. Just like 2 questions, nothing too crazy. Yes.
Thank you so much for the talk. I loved it. So the question I have, it's very subjective, but does it really help to have a certain kind of user or a certain category of user in terms of getting the best or maximum feedback? Now, once again, it's very generalized, because
Okay.
if a product is for a specific target audience, then
Okay.
it makes. But
But-
to get the maximum feedback, is there a general rule that we should have? Maybe more super user or maybe more
Yeah.
casual user?
So let's go back to that thing you said about like your target audience. So
Right.
I know that's important, but also like when we talk about demographics, people are all over the place. Like I from grandma to child, a lot of people are using certain products. So do you have like a specific product type or?
No, I can't think of anything, but I'm just thinking like, what my perception is. So for example, if you want to get the maximum feedback, it makes sense to get the feedback from early adopters, because
Okay.
they try to use more and more advanced function.
Yeah.
So we'll know things that the casual user will not. But is that actually true?
I like to make sure that I have a diverse crowd. So for the power user, the one that knows and tries everything, love to have that, because then I can uncover a lot of the more complex features. But novice, I need for sure, because they're the ones that are going to tell me what feels most natural to them. It's like, oh, I've seen this before on this other system or whatever. So if it's obvious for the novice user, it's going to help for everyone in between.
So it's always good to have a mix of
Yes,
crowd. Okay.
definitely. And if you find someone's never touched, or logged on anything, that'll be amazing.
Right.
So, yep.
Any other questions?
Good.
After you get your report from the field, after you take your survey and everything, and you bring it back to the team, do you tend to have different takes on the responses and do A/B testing after that or something? Or?
Yes. So once we compiled the report and everything, and we have all these findings, that one that I've showed is kind of like 3 pages long, and we keep it just between like the team that's working on the product, but we do like a shorter one and a whole presentation for the stakeholders and for anyone else who's interested at a Lunch and Learn, because it is beneficial, because there could be another team that's going through the same issue, and we want them to be educated about it as well. And when it comes to A/B testing, that's a great one because we always do follow-ups. So on the board, we'll probably have like, okay, this is a strategy. We're gonna make sure that we've already accomplished these critical issues. So now it's A/B is usually just for like, all right, do they like it on the form on the left side or on the right side? And then how many images are they actually cycling through? Do we need the header to have like that, rotating widget kind of thing? So yeah, definitely we make sure that everybody understands what we did so that they can get excited about the next product. The first couple ones took a lot to get people on board with, but now people are more warmed up to the idea of, all right, pick me as a usability testing subject, Okay.
Fancy one? The fancy one.
Testing.
Oh, I wanted the fancy one.
Hello.
Hey.
What if you're dealing with a group of users that are used to a competitor's product, right? So they're specifically biased or anchored, right, to specific navigation. And when you introduce a new product to them, it's difficult for them. It's not usable as blah, blah, blah. But when you dive deep, it's really first or second use, and they're looking for the same navigation. So is there a set of questions or tests that you can, I guess, introduce and say, I mean, how do you approach that? How do you eliminate? Kind of like in a perfume store, right? You smell coffee, and you can smell another perfume. Is there sort of questions or thing that you can do, or magic that you can do to eliminate that bias and go past that?
That's a tricky one for sure, because it's going to be hard to retrain someone that loves their brand, loves a specific software product. Definitely in the user testing phase for survey questions, I wouldn't go max like over 5 questions, but these questions need to be broad and open-ended like that, and to figure out, okay, so once they gave you the answer, okay, I like to use this because, then I feel like you can start getting deeper and saying, okay, well, what is left to be desired from this product that you could use for yours? So there's always going to be something that people are complaining about. There's always going to be something that it's missing. And I feel like you'll always have to start off with that survey for sure. Yeah. And I'll try to find, maybe if you give me your email, I'll try to find like a nice template for that specific thing, for picking one over the other.
I like what he was saying. You take coffee and kind of like smell it before you smell other perfumes. It would be, if you can set up an environment, the users to imagine something else, a different kind of a thing before they dive into the new application. Because I had a similar issue like that, where nurses were using certain app and we wanted to replace that app with another one, but they were hating that we were taking away from them their workflow because they love the workflow, but we think the
and
workflow
they know the
should
workflow.
be, we want to improve it, but they don't want to improve it. And how do you like approach that?
But I like that idea of having like this test environment where you give them that. Well, you end up doing a usability testing as well. But maybe they'll find out that it is a lot easier to like scan through the site and just find the tools that they need. So, but that requires time and more engineering to get this dev site up and running. So,
we got a question over there.
With the rise of mobile devices, often you find that making user interfaces simpler is more effective. But then there's a fine line there between limiting your user and giving them what's freely accessible. Sometimes that works out really well. Apple does this a lot in their devices, and they control the hardware and software. But then you have users like me that kind of want a little bit more freedom. So do you find value in limiting user interfaces, usability, and how do you kind of decipher that fine line there?
So when it comes, you're asking if it would be more beneficial to limit the features on a mobile application?
Yeah, so I mean, there might be like 10 different ways of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You might want to find, sometimes the fastest way of doing it is the better way, but not always. So it really does, it's very subjective, I know, and it comes down to demographics, but is there kind of a fine line? Is there like turning point between limiting a user and just making a solid product and then moving forward.
I definitely like the free open world feel for a lot of these things, but it is dangerous because if you have all these different avenues of getting to one thing, then how is your navigation structured? Like, how are your categories structured? The information architecture about it can get kind of messy. So that one's a tough one because I'm thinking back at this help desk system that we have. If we have like order computer here, order computer there, and then you're browsing and you order computer, I feel like it just won't have a nice flow that makes sense. So a lot of the times people have this difficulty with their home pages and their landing pages to feel what exactly do people need. Do they have these quick links? Do they have these, do they make the search bar more smarter and faster and things like that? Or do they introduce a bot to help them figure out where to go? Things like that. So yeah, it's a good question.
I've seen it. This is the marketing speak, and the A/B testing sounds like what you're talking about, where you would have magically 100 people that you could watch individually, and then 100 people that have a different path, different way, and a third one, all that. Have you seen?
With the power users, a lot of the times they know all these queries and all these like booleans. And it's like, okay, well, the novice user only just went through the regular nav, but they just know all these other loopholes. So, but it's good to know these paths because then it's like, okay, well, let's improve these paths for them, but keep these paths because they enjoy it. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the things that I would think about from your standpoint would be if you're trying to hide it on mobile, do you need the feature? Right, because it's like if I'm building a website that's responsive, it's going to be the same HTML code or whatever on all the platforms and whatnot. Like, why am I adding extra code to hide something on mobile specifically versus why not make it a good user experience all the way through, regardless if on mobile or on desktop? So if you're finding those issues where it's like I need to turn this off or add this one feature, kind of ask yourself, is this a needed feature, or you go from there?
And that goes back to the whole deal with the hamburger menu versus only the 4 to 5 bottom menus for mobile devices. If out of sight, out of mind, is it really needed? Are users asking for it through surveys, with feedback? So, cool.
I have another question, and so does Herman. But so, like, thinking about your personal experiences in doing these usability testing, which one was most successful for you, and why was it successful? What made it?
Probably the most successful one was getting to the A/B testing part after we've already fixed a lot of the critical pain points that kept people from doing their job. Then the A/B testing was kind of more fun. Then I went, high fidelity and showed them these different mock-ups and different experiences. And at that point, they're not frustrated anymore with the actual usability of it. They're more involved for the aesthetics of it. So that was probably, I feel like, where I feel success. Like, okay, we went past, the trenches and the hard part. Mm-hmm. Mm. No, it's common. Yeah. The frustration part, common. Yeah.
With the increase in lawsuits related to accessibility, do you think it's easier to meet the requirements going by user testing or by the guidelines that are set? So
bringing in the guidelines right away is critical. It's really important, especially with government applications and things like that. And they're the best example, actually, because of the what's it called? The compliance 508.
Like W3, W3C or something.
508 compliance. But to make sure that it's working the way it should be working on several devices, then that's where it comes into usability. So for example, when we went out to the field with these iPads, we had to test that the iPad has a feature where you swipe your full 5-finger and then it reads back to you. It was reading every single div tag ever. So there we go. We found an issue critical because they only need to know this much of the screen. So that's an example of why it's important to include that in accessibility parts into the usability testing.
Sorry, thinking about something. Do you guys have any other questions?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. All right. So if you guys want to do me a favor, first of all, thank you. That was a fantastic presentation, and like I said, you guys arranged something because that was too good of an answer. All of a sudden,
I've put a lot of thought into this.
All right, fine. So it was amazing. Do me a favor. Thank you, Gravity IT, for the pizzas, for the drinks, for everything. If you guys are sick and tired of referring your friends and getting nothing about it, do something about it. Go with Gravity IT. I did. Do me a favor, go to win.bocajs.org on your phone, on your laptop, on both. Don't do that, you'll have 2 tickets. Did I say that loud? I didn't say that loud. You guys can also go with that if you're interested. I'll be giving out, so if you guys want to, again, go to win.bocajs.org. I thought it's so simple, and at the last event, someone was like, what was it again? Win, as in you want to win. BocaJS, as in where you are. .org, because org, I want to win. And there's only none of you guys on. All right, there's 12 of you guys on. If someone has a ticket bigger than 12, make a noise. You can play too.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to.
Oh, this is. It's Ray. Oh, okay. So let's do that one more time. Boom. 15, it's getting bigger. Should I refresh until there's more? I know there's more than 15 of you guys here. We are playing for a license to, what's it called?
JetBrains.
Red Hat, JetBrains, thank you. Every single time. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've also been asked to click on the screen. There's a magical reason for that. As a developer, I am super excited to tell you, your phone will make a noise. Can you do me a favor and turn up the voice so I feel happy? Ready? Let's refresh it one more time. If you guys want to look at the screen or look at your phone. What happened? Oh no. The winner is... What's going on? Yay! 8. Did someone make a noise? Oh, did you forget to turn down the volume? It was all the way up? Did the developer that did that not know how to do it on your phone? That developer sucks. Imagine, this software is like 10 years old. Do you know who's going to remake it? Me and this gentleman. Where? On our YouTube channel. So, videos.bocajs.org. Sir, come and get your lights. Thank you very much, guys. So every first of the month. Again, we will skip next month because it will be on New Year's Eve. So we're skipping next month. We'll probably do something with Girls Development. So we'll figure what to do out. So thank you. Okay. Thank you for everybody. See you guys on February.